Okay, so we're gonna talk about how to learn about design, not only drawing scroll patterns, but also looking into the past to see what it has to offer. Because a lot of what we look at a gun show is really valuable. You know, here's a spoon. I know this isn't all that pretty, but it is a design that's a little different, isn't it? So if I were going to, I could well have a contract for engraving silverware. So I would want to know what's on there. Monograms on silverware, believe it or not, that's a pretty good career if you have the right factory that wants it. This is just a hammer on an old shotgun, but the engraving is really roughly cut, but the design is remarkable. Now you may not be able to see the design that well, but I can turn it a little bit, maybe put a little more light on it. We'll see how that works. I think the might focus in. And I'll take some stills of it if necessary, put them in the video. So here's the animals. Now we see the animals are like arts and crafts movements type animals. They're like a cartoon. They're supposed to be frivolous and fun. They're not supposed to be a photograph. How many this is an 1840 lock, side lock on a shotgun. How many people had photographs back then? Not hardly any, right? So people had a little different concept about what an animal looked like back then. And these are supposed to be frivolous type animals. And it's roughly cut, but you can't tell by the naked eye. And I don't care if it's roughly cut or not. I still like the engraving. So, that's important to me anyway. It doesn't. I now, if I want to show my gun in the field to somebody, like I had somebody engrave this gun. How do you like the engraving? I'm not bringing a magnifying glass with me. I don't care if it's a little roughly cut, but I don't want to be junky either and ugly looking. This is so these are muzzle loading parts here. This is the first gun I ever engraved, this muzzling thing. It's very lightly engraved. You can tell I was really afraid of it. I was afraid I was going to make a mistake. But this is a pattern with a hammer and chisel that you'd see on a Kentucky rifle. Let's see, where's the other part? Goes here. Like that. It's kind of boring, really, but it's okay. This here's another one I did. This is a Thompson center gun, and for me right now it's just too lightly engraved that I was afraid of making a mistake, so I was maybe too careful. I didn't have confidence in my work. This is not. Now here was something engraved with a mechanical assist device. It's incredibly light. This comes from a man that worked for Ithaca Gun Company. Well, he didn't work for Ithaca Gun Company, but he started, he was building Ithaca Classic doubles. And I engraved one gun for him, but I couldn't afford to engrave for him because he wasn't paying enough. And actually, that business didn't work out for him. But these are the animals that they were engraving on a plate that I was supposed to reproduce. It's incredibly thin, incredibly light engraving. I don't think they're doing that too much now. I think the mechanical assist engraving has progressed a lot more than that now. I don't see that type of work. But that was in the early days, very light engraving. It's still a nice thing to look at, and you put black paint in it, you can actually see it. Now, we're going to learn how to do smoke prints here. This is something that come off a shotgun that I had to do a lot of. So I'm going to put this on this crummy little piece of steel here. This mild steel you get at the tractor plant or whatever. And that's a design that I had to put on a lot of shotguns. So I want to take smoke prints off of that. And then do a transfer. That's what we're going to show you real quick. And this is the whole shotgun here. This is a L.C. Smith shotgun. It was a fine engraver, but there's a scroll. There's really nice scroll pattern right here. So I might want to copy that on an L.C. Smith shotgun. I may not want to copy that on anything else, but it's pretty much a generic image. And I have still pictures for that in the video too. And of course, the same back here is the same thing. This is a stamping. The engraver's name was Krause, K-R-A-U-S-E. He was 10 minutes from my place here, the Hunter Arms factory. And Mr. Krause is a big German guy, and he drove. They told me, old guys at the factory or children of people who worked at the factory said that he drank a quart of beer for lunch every day. He's a pretty darn good engraver. He can drink a quart of beer for lunch and do something like that. And you have this is another type of design on the bottom, which is Art Deco. It's a terrifically different design, Art Deco. And then we have Victorian, Art Deco. It's on a different plane. This is important for design. If it's on a different plane, I learned this from Linton McKenzie. It's on a different plane, you can have a different style. So this is Art Deco. This is Victorian era. It's okay. It's on a different plane, different area of the gun. So smoke print. So things if you have a smoke print. One thing you can use is Mars Black. MARSBLACK. This is the only tube I ever had. I've had it for 25 years. You don't take a lot of it. But it's like soot. It's very black. I'm not going to take it apart because it's going to make a mess. This is a little jar with paintbrushes in it. And this is black out of a stove. You mix it with a little bit of oil, or you can buy it that way. It's called Lamp, L-A-M-P makers, or Stock Makers Lamp Black. Let me repeat that. Stock Makers Lamp Black. This is a generic thing. Don't pay attention to that. This is Chinese white. How do you use Chinese white? You look at my face right now. You look here, and you put it in there. You have white on your finger, then you put the white on the gun, and it helps differentiate. This isn't white steel, it's colored steel. I don't want to do it. I don't use Chinese white anymore because I read that it was human bone ground up. So I don't use Chinese white from China anymore. I don't use it at all. So the other type of, let's see. So you can use a candle. Instead of Chinese white, I use Damar varnish, VARMAR, and you take it. So if you want to, here's a blank receiver. It's a Ithagun receiver. It's a very high quality receiver. It's a new one. So you take this is a oil. This would go in a shotgun case, high grade shotgun case. It's a silver. I guess it's a plated silver oil bottle, but I have Mars Black in it. M-A-R-S, Mars Black. Or no, excuse me, Damar varnish. Excuse me, Damar varnish. They use this to spray over, I think, oil paintings to make them last longer. So you just put some of the varnish on there, and then you rub it in with your finger, which probably should have a glove to do it, but it makes it sticky, and it's going to take the transfer, because we're going to do a transfer now. A bottle of Mars Black should last you about 30 years. And to do a transfer, we use a candle. We don't have to use a candle. Maybe we'll have to use the, I don't have a cigarette lighter right now, but I don't smoke, but this is a candle you can use. We use the Mars Black instead. And hopefully, hey Tana, can you give me some Scotch tape? So you take a little bit of the Mars Black, like this.
The thick one or just a regular one?
Just a regular one. You take the Mars Black and you put it on the engraving that you want to copy.
Which one?
That one, thanks. Something else I want to, I forgot. Then you take this and just kind of lightly smear it on there. Now, if this is a new gun, an expensive gun, and you go to a gun show and you don't want to put tape on it, because if it's charcoal instead of another type of finish, you could lift the finish off this expensive shotgun. You can't do it on a really expensive gun that already has a finish on it. This is obviously an old piece of junk, really. It's a large frame L.C. Smith gun. Nobody really wants them anymore. So I'm going to take the Scotch tape and put it over here. I already have images on this on the net. Let me see if it come out. No, it has to be a little more. I haven't done this in a little while, but it's going to take some practice to be able to do this, because you have to get enough on where you don't smear it. And also it helps if you have something to wipe your hand off with. And by the way, as long as they have a glove out, when you do look at guns at a gun show or really expensive gun, you buy yourself cotton gloves. and it lets the customer know that he has something valuable too. That you take care of it. You don't want salt on a gun will rust it. Let's see if I can get a good print this time. Yeah, I got one. I don't think you're going to be able to see it with the camera, but you can see it. I'm going to put a little more. My varnish dried a little bit, so I'm going to add some more. And you don't always get this right the first time, but we're going to get this right the second time because we don't want to spend all day on it. So you just have to test it to see how sticky it's going to be. I think that's it. And I really don't think you're going to be able to see it, but like I said, I have images right above this. Yeah, I can definitely see the scroll pattern on the tape. Yeah, you can see it here. You can see the vestiges of it anyway. So sometimes it's going to take you 2 or 3 times to get it right. Then when you lift it off, you can see it. You will not be able to see it, I don't think, but you can see the. You have to get the light right to be able to see it. That beats drawing a pattern, doesn't it? So now you have something to practice on. Then you practice to make that look exactly like this one. So my final exam at the engraving school was to copy my instructor's work. So that's what I did. That's the last thing I engraved. I passed. I got an excellent. And then I got jobs for the engraving school because I could competently engrave that the way the teacher wanted me to do it. Unfortunately, the first gun was Desert Eagle. It's really too hard to engrave, but I hope I never have to engrave one of them again. It's better to have pre-war guns. They're a lot easier. The metal's softer. Modern day weapons are much harder, usually. Except for this gun, because the receiver doesn't take the pressure of the explosion. It inside the block, the follower, everything inside takes all the pressure. So this is easier to cut. That's why I call it the perfect canvas, because look, there's no ejection port, there's no junk on the outside. See how much, there's not that much to engrave here on a side lock, but look at the kind of area you have to engrave here on the Ethical Model 37. That's why I call it the perfect engraver's canvas. So that's it on the smoke prints, I guess. And my number is so you can call me if you have any questions. That's it. Then we'll move on to inside of what I have in the shop to work with. And Jira's with me, and I'm going to put her to work polishing a bayonet.